Welcome on the Essentia Foundation's YouTube channel. This video is probably the most personal story on our channel so far. It is the story of a very big heart meeting a very bright mind. It is the Essentia Foundation's foundational story on a very personal level. But on a philosophical level, it is also a story about the right connection between heart and mind. By heart, I mean our direct felt experience of the world. And by mind, I mean our rational faculty of modeling that direct felt experience through science. Now, the main character in this story is the heart. And it's being played by the Dutch entrepreneur and humanitarian Fred Matser, who founded the Essentia Foundation. The bright mind is someone a bit more familiar to you already, and that is Bernardo Kastrup. It is through the encounter of these two men that the Essentia Foundation started. Now, the first 20 minutes of this video is about the heart's journey towards the mind. It's about Fred Matser's life. I made use of a brilliant documentary made about Fred Matser's life called Beyond Me, and the documentary link will be shared below in the description. Fred Matser is a great guy and Bernardo's a great guy, and having the two of them together as the founding fathers of the Essentia Foundation is just something very special. But now let's start the story. Let's go back 70 years in time.
Until I was 12, 13, 14 years old, I wanted to play. I didn't like school. I just wanted to play hockey. I wanted to be in the street. I wanted to build huts in the forest. I always had, as a child, short pants. And the freedom of feeling the air around your knees, your legs, is fantastic. I looked at the older men, and I found that they, during winter and summer, always wore trousers. The idea that I had to go into that stage was terrible. Feeling imprisoned by something that I didn't like, but it went with something very serious. Those people were talking, about houses, about land, and I thought, why do they behave like that? Yeah, I don't know. I didn't like all those rules and confinements that they created and they were about to be created around me.
I think this life transition Fred is describing is familiar to most of us. It's the coming of age, the moment that boys start wearing trousers and girls dresses, at least 70 years ago. But what's unique in the story of Fred is that in his youth, Europe was war-torn, and his father, Bob Matser, became one of the biggest real estate developers in the Netherlands, rebuilding the country after the war.
We were just coming out of a war, and the focus was very much on rebuilding a country which was bombarded and was very much damaged. And interestingly enough, when you look back, everybody focuses on the physical, but the wounds internally were not addressed. What was very uncomfortable for me was that beyond those emotions which you had, there was no resolution. So everything on the outside was peaceful. No conflicts, nothing like that. It was in the 50s that my father developed Parkinson. He knew that he was losing his power to speech. His lips stiffened up. He couldn't keep his equilibrium that well. Now imagine you have a guy who has my father. He started the first real estate development company in the Netherlands. building houses, hundreds a year, shopping centers, office buildings. And he is losing his ability to communicate through words. So it's my last year in school. I'm 18 years old. All of a sudden he said, whatever is going to happen, I want you to become my successor in the business.
This post-war period Fred is describing was characterized by a pragmatic mindset of rebuilding and restoring order after the chaos and destruction of the war. Also, if we look at science and physics in that period, philosophical questions were put aside in favor of a shut up and calculate attitude. And that is also what Fred did. When his father became seriously ill, he took over the family business and he developed many large real estate projects in the Netherlands.
When I later on heard the song of Billy Joel, and you may know that song, James, I felt really understood. Yes, that was the way it went those days.
Job you've done, carrying the weight of family pride. James, you've been well behaved, you've been working hard, but will you always stay someone else's dream of who you are?
So when he died, it's like then the old tree that in a way protected you and gave you also the space to grow fell away. And so I was exposed to the light directly, not through my dad so much, which of course in a way I was quite dependent, to be honest. I had quite some quarrels with him. We had different views at many things, and I was pretty outspoken at the time too. But in a way it felt also as an act of love that in a way, what I earlier said, he gave passage, but he also gave space to me to do my own thing, whatever that is.
Fred started devoting his time and financial resources as a humanitarian. With the end of this story in mind, you could say that he became a physical idealist before becoming a metaphysical idealist. And he did so at the Red Cross in Geneva.
Yes, I do remember. Yeah. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Welcome to the Federation.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Do you have a contact with George?
In 1983, Fred's connections got him in touch with the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies in Geneva, Switzerland. He offered his services as a volunteer. And his offer came at exactly the right time.
Okay, so in here we have the paper files.
Paperwork, yeah.
The Federation's Secretary General wanted to launch a global program to combat child mortality due to dehydration with oral rehydration therapy. Fred became the driver of this important program called Child Alive, a challenge which he eagerly accepted.
Wow. Africa, Middle East, Angola, Egypt, 1986.
In the programs Fred contributed to, literally thousands of lives were saved. But in doing all that good, Fred started reflecting on how he did it and what it did to him personally.
In the meantime, I realized that I was full of stress. And I thought, who am I as a Dutchman to go into a Kenyan culture, in the culture of Swaziland or Tanzania or wherever? And if I bring my own stress into cultures that are already vulnerable, I even make it worse. So slowly I started to realize I need to really step back more. And I first need to help myself to be more clean in a way.
A journey inward led Fred to having a series of transcendent experiences. He started writing about them to make sense of what he had experienced.
Let me try a metaphor. Imagine this sensory-based,
sequential reality we all share as a room with a curtain. Standing on one side of the curtain, I see objects I can describe with words, such as tables and chairs. I can hear someone talking, smell the coffee, turn the page of a newspaper. On this side of the curtain, I am in a realm where the past grows each day and the future shortens. Still metaphorically speaking, what happened to me after my surprising alternative treatment was this. While I closed my eyes, I found myself on the other side of the curtain. A holistic, infinite experience emerged. There, I could not see anything as such. When I turned around and looked back, I expected to see the curtain, but I could not see anything. I experienced a superb feeling of flow and non-resistance. I had never felt more welcome anywhere. All dualities faded. There was nothing, and there was everything at the same time. There was no space, nor time. There was no I. My intellect was silenced. It was beyond feelings. It was sheer beingness. At some point during this experience, the thought, "Why me?" arose. This immediately disrupted the experience and brought me back to this side of the curtain, the finite realm. Only much later did I come to realize that the why me question is the kind of sabotage that's inherent to the ego. Objectively, the experience lasted perhaps 15 seconds. However, it has been more impactful than my whole life up until that moment.
That state of being is the best I have ever had. Words are unable to express the experience. What I learned there is there are two different ways of presence. There's what I later call the lateral presence, the world in which we all live with now 7 billion people and billions of other expressions of life, which life unfolds based on a principle of time, sequentially, one event after the other, one experience after the other. And then there's the transcendental experience.
I think some of you watching this video will know that a single transcendent experience can give a lifetime of food for thought, and also how one such experience can surprisingly overlap with scientific knowledge one has never heard of. I think it is in this way that Fred's experiences led him to write stuff that only later he would substantiate with science and philosophy.
Babies, before they start talking, they also experience, and they have no words. In a way, you could say they are not yet handicapped by words. I remember when I was
a child. I saw Lily of the Valley for the first time, before I even had words to name them. It is not so much the aesthetic beauty of those little flowers that I remember, but the profound and delightful feeling of pure essence that accompanied my looking at them. It was an experience unencumbered by the restrictive intermediation of words.
I have 7 grandchildren, and I've looked them in the eyes, and I could experience so much beauty, so much love, wordless, beyond words.
I believe that experience, without naming or interpretation, corresponds to infinite essence and sheer bliss. Life in human society forces us, as adults, to describe our experiences through words and other signs. But the activity of describing is merely a form of documentation of the past. It fails to capture the essence of the original experiences in themselves. Descriptions do have their function. By describing, we communicate and can thus compare and order information. But we've become so addicted to this practice that we now, absurdly, take it to be our sole gateway to reality. We've lost contact with direct experience and live instead insulated from the real world by a layer of abstract conceptualizations and stories.
We all learn to trust the products of our thinking. We learn it in schools, in universities, and anywhere else. It's safe, because through that we can control situations. And the world, the urban world, is so complicated now. It is a product of that way of thinking that indeed we have engaged ourselves in all those urban rules and structures and use iPhones, smartphones, computers to organize that human life. Next to the ratio, which is superbly popular, the ratio, the mental faculty, the thinking, there is that feeling faculty that also gives us information, direct information, before the language is spoken. We have not learned to trust that.
Fred acknowledges the importance of words, but also sees that by using words, people can lose the connection with their inner self and with others.
Language is the vehicle through which the mental faculty, the intellect, expresses itself. But it is not a vehicle suitable for the equally important feeling faculty, this being precisely the crux of the problem. Our human culture's reliance on language leads to an overvaluation of the mental faculty.
What Fred wrote here resembles one-on-one the work of Ian McGilchrist, who points to the fact that as a culture and society we are under the dictatorship of the left hemisphere, our thinking minds that want to model, predict and manage the world, whereas it is only our right hemisphere without words that can give us a holistic understanding of the world and ourselves in the world. And exactly because what the right hemisphere has to tell us is not able to be captured in models, it is not through science that it can communicate with us. It has to be done through art, literature and music, or poetry.
In het boek Meer dat, en dan moet je God, dat ga ik zo meteen uitspreken, even associëren met het bewuste zijn, plekkeloos en tijdloos. Ruimteloos, tijdloos. De leerling vraagt aan de leraar, maar vertel me dan over God. En dan zegt de leraar, maar ge erkent toch dat de kracht, die conceptie, groei, bloei, verval en sterfte bepaalt, op zich niet concipieert, noch groeit, noch bloeit, noch vervalt, noch sterft. Dat is de kracht van God.
It was through his personal experiences that Fred had become a metaphysical idealist. For him, it was a heart's journey. But I started by telling you that this would be a story about a big heart meeting a bright mind. And this is that moment. About a decade ago, Fred met this brilliant philosopher who, in his attic at night, wrote dozens of books about metaphysical idealism, but who was not yet very known at that time, and had a day job at a tech company working as a strategic product developer, doing stuff nobody understands, but was quite valuable in business. I'm talking, of course, about Bernardo Kastrup.
Hoe is het? Mogen we huggen?
Inmiddels wel, toch?
Ja, ik denk het ook.
The hug you just saw symbolizes the start of the Essentia Foundation. It's Fred Matzer's big heart and Bernardo's bright mind coming together. Now, as Bernardo and Fred usually like to chat in Dutch, we will now change languages and give you subtitles. En zoals je zult horen, kan Bernardo prima Nederlands spreken.
Oh, het was in een taxi in Los Angeles. Ja, wanneer was het? 2000?
En we gingen naar het congres Sages and Scientists om
Ja.
een praatje te houden van Deepak Chopra.
Ja.
Ja. En dat weet ik nog goed. We zaten in de taxi. Jij zat voorin, ik zat achterin. Jij moest steeds maar omkijken.
Ja, 2 uur lang.
2 uur
zat
omkijken.
naar achter te kijken.
En op een bepaald moment hoorde je mij spreken. Nou, en zeg maar zelf wat je toen opmerkte.
Het ging heel snel toen wij elkaar
Ja.
ontmoetten.
Dat we merkten dat we eigenlijk over bewustzijn spraken. En al naarmate dat gesprek zich verder ontspon, merkten we hoeveer we eigenlijk op dezelfde pagina zaten.
Het was evident, heel vroeg, dat wij in dezelfde wereld zaten. Dat wij vergelijkbare visies hadden. Vandaar dat dit zo interessant was. En dat ik 2 uur lang gewoon met mijn nek gedraaid zat op die bank.
Fred started reading all Bernardo's books, and the two of them became friends.
Het is mooi dat je dan beschreven ziet een heel groot stuk van wat je binnen ervaart. En ja, eigenlijk dat je ook niet alleen bent. Hè? Dus langzamerhand groeit dan de overtuiging. Het is een soort kracht, dat bewustzijn, dat door de mensheid, maar door de hele schepping eigenlijk heen vloeit. Een creatieve kracht.
Wat viel jou het meest op aan Fred, of wat vond je het meest opvallend toen je Fred net leerde kennen?
Hoe spontaan hij dingen kon zeggen, dat voor mij de resultaat van jarenlang over alles over na te denken. Het was het resultaat van een lang, moeilijk proces. Voor hem, het was allemaal vanzelfsprekend. En voor mij, het was ook, wow, hoe in godsnaam kan dat? Hoe kan die man zo tot zulke conclusies komen zonder moeite? Direct na onze eerste ontmoeting in die reis, we hebben elkaar in Den Bosch ontmoet. En toen zei je al, je keek naar mij en je zei, Bernardo, jouw leven gaat niet om business of technologie. De ultieme doel van jouw leven is filosofie. En uiteindelijk kom je wel vanzelf tot deze conclusie. En er was een deel van mij toen die wist dat jij gelijk had. Maar ik was niet bereid om dat te accepteren. En het duurde nog een jaar of 6, 5 misschien, tot ik dat accepteerde. Dus je hebt iets over mij gezien, heel snel, bijna instantaan. En ook veel eerder dan ik zelf dat had gezien. Ik wil dat niet accepteren.
Bernardo zat natuurlijk bij ASML, had het naar zijn zin, had een goed leven, was heel nuttig. Kon ook daarnaast zijn boeken ook schrijven wat hij gedaan heeft. Ik geloof in die tijd een 6-7-tal boeken heeft hij geschreven. Ja, en ik heb uiteindelijk hem na lang praten toch wel zo ver gekregen dat hij overtuigd raakte zelf dat het belangrijk was om daar weg te gaan, uit te stappen en eigenlijk zijn innerlijke stem te volgen. Want hij wist natuurlijk best van binnen ook iets waarvan ik het gevoel had dat hij dat ook had, om eruit te stappen en een eigen initiatief samen met mij te gaan nemen.
En al die tijd, je nodigde me uit om mijn carrière te verlaten en mijn stichting te komen doen met jou. En ik was daar bang voor, ik was nog niet bereid om dat te doen. En dan, begin 2019, kreeg ik behoorlijk tinnitus. Oorsuizen, de geluiden van een kleine tandartsboormachine, 2 van die. En ik was wanhopig en ik dacht aan zelfmoord een paar keer. En dan in mei 2019 of zo, je kwam bij mij langs. En ik was midden in dat wanhoop en Claudia, mijn partner, was naast mij. Ja, ze was een beetje aan het huilen, want de hele drama in mijn leven op dat moment. En dan plotseling uit de lucht, je keek naar mij heel diep. En je zei, nu dat je lijdt, nu dat jij bereid bent om alles achter te laten, om alles op te geven, want ja, zelfmoord, je geeft alles op. Nu dat jij bereid bent om alles op te geven, is dit nu dan het moment om dat groot stap te nemen en ASML verlaten, je carrière verlaten en gewoon volledig, je tijd volledig in filosofie te stoppen, samen met mij. En het was een dieptepunt voor mij, heel diep, want ik was midden in de wanhoop. Maar op dat moment, ik heb een licht gezien. Het was alsof dat stem achter mij, mijn hoofd zei, ja, dit was de bedoeling van de tinnitus. Zodat jij nu op het moment ja tegen Fred kon zeggen. Dus plotseling kon ik betekenis zien. En ik zei tegen jou, ja, laten we het doen. En dan duurde het nog 1 jaar totdat dit echt gebeurde.
En ik weet ook nog, op het moment dat ik die vraag stelde, keek je naar Claudia. En die zei niks, maar het was voor haar een opluchting om die vraag te horen. En jouw reactie daarop.
Ja, ik had haar toestemming nodig.
Ja.
Vandaar dat ik naar haar keek.
Ja, nou, dat was ook mooi om te zien. Ook de verbinding tussen jullie op zo'n essentieel moment.
Ja.
Essentieel.
Ja, essentieel moment. Ja,
Het essentieel moment.
Ja, als ik in mijn hoofd die moment opnieuw beleef, het is een vreemde mix van wanhoop en hoop. Het was intens, dat moment. Ja. En het duurde nog 1 jaar totdat wij echt begonnen. Ja. Maar dat was de geboortemoment van Ascension. Ja. De rest was gewoon uitvoeringswerk.
Ja, en er is niemand anders. Dat kan ik niet wetenschappelijk bewijzen. Maar dat is intuïtief. Jij bent daarin de wereldleider. Jij bent daarin de man. Absoluut. Zonder enige twijfel.
Je hebt een duidelijker beeld van wie ik ben dan ik zelf had gehad. Pas nu komen onze beelden bij elkaar. Ja.
Zeker.
Fred kon iets zien over mij die ik zelf niet kon zien. Jarenlang niet kon zien. Diep binnen wel, maar ik was niet bereid om dat te accepteren. Maar hij bleef het herhalen. En ik wist dat diep binnen, ik wist dat hij gelijk had. Hij heeft mijn leven veranderd. Mijn beste vriend ooit.
Ja, goede vriend. Beste vriend.
Fred and Bernardo founded the Essentia Foundation in 2020. It has become a knowledge hub for scientists worldwide to share work relevant to analytic idealism.
Ja, wat we hebben gezien is dat als het gaat om het idealisme, er zijn veel mensen en instituties die het idealisme al promoten, maar altijd vanuit een soort spirituele perspectief of de perspectief van introspectie en bijna nooit op basis van logische redenering en empirisch bewijs. Terwijl we herkennen dat er is heel veel empirisch bewijs voor het idealisme, heel veel logische redenen om het materialisme op te geven en het idealisme te zien als de meest waarschijnlijk metafysische optie op tafel vandaag. Dus wat uniek is in de Essentia Foundation is het promoten van idealisme niet vanuit een spirituele perspectief, maar vanuit een wetenschappelijk perspectief gebaseerd op logica en empirisch bewijs. Dat is uniek, denk ik, en het is complementair met de spirituele aanpakkingen van zoveel anderen.
Als jij nu aan mensen die dus van niks weten Essentia kort uitlegt, wat vertel je dan?
Wij nemen de tijd om te helpen het materialistisch wereldbeeld, op grond waarvan wij onze maatschappelijke inrichting nu gedaan hebben, die met zich brengt het vanuit schaarste en competitie en uitsluiting denken, wat veel pijn veroorzaakt, de wereld te helpen veranderen, met name door de top in de wetenschap, ook de metafysici, daarbij heel diep betrokken zijnde, te helpen overtuigd te raken dat het materialisme het niet juiste uitgangspunt is en het idealisme het juiste. Daarbij is de hoop dat we ook vanuit dat idealisme ook het handelen vanuit idealisme, namelijk samenhang met elkaar, hè, en het weten dat wij aangestuurd worden vanuit het oneindige, dat we dat ook met elkaar gaan beleven en elkaar daar ook op aan kunnen spreken.
Het is echt prima weer vandaag.
Het koel is ook wel lekker, hè? Ga je dan?
Ja, het is het verschil tussen weten en kennen. Voor mij, de conclusies die ik heb uiteindelijk getrokken, waren het resultaat van een redeneringsproces. Dus ik denk dat ik weet conceptueel wat de aarde van de natuur is. Maar voor Fred, hij kent het. Hij kent het uit directe ervaring. En dat is iets dat voor mij is een beetje wonderbaarlijk.
Veel liefst ook aan Claudia.
Ja.
Bye bye, bye, bye bye. I spent the first part of my professional life in a world of straight lines, of planned processes, and a lot of ratio. A world in which intellect was the highest god. But I came to see that it was all narrow-minded. That there is so much more beyond intellect and thinking.
Now, to wrap this story up, I think the beauty of what we are trying to do at the Essentia Foundation is to truly find the balance between heart and mind. I think it was very wise of Fred Matser, who also arrived at idealism through introspection, through a transcendent experience he had, to recognize the fact that what the world needs at this moment in time is an organization, a place where idealism is approached via analytic thinking, rigorous science, and a place where academia can be transformed towards a new metaphysics. That he saw in Bernardo Kastrup the man to lead this organization, to me is an example of the wisdom of the heart, knowing that it has to make place, in a sense, for what is needed. Fred could have set up an organization just sharing his vision, and he has written books about his ideas, but he noticed that what the world needs is this analytic approach of Bernardo. I just find that beautiful. Hopefully, after seeing this video, you recognize that the root of the heart, introspection, meditation, transcendent experiences that can lead you to an idealist metaphysics, is absolutely complementary with an analytic approach of idealism through thinking, philosophy, science, interpreting physics. And the true beauty happens when heart and mind meet. And that is the story of the Essentia Foundation. And I thought it appropriate to end this video with a famous quote by the philosopher Blaise Pascal: "The heart has its reasons, reason knows nothing of. We know the truth not only by reason, but by the heart." Thank you very much for watching.